Episode 58, Anastasia Washington. Anastasia Washington is an actor, comedian, and a scream queen. She is an institution in the indie horror world. She's appeared in tons of movies you've seen, and she's carved her own niche that, while most at home in indie horror, is versatile enough for anything. I hung out with her some at Midsummer Scream, a horror fest in Long Beach. It was like walking around with the mayor. Well, a well-liked mayor, that is. Everyone knew her and was stoked to see her. Please welcome to the show, Anastasia Washington. Anastasia Washington, good to see you as always.
Good to see you.
So let's kind of start at the beginning. You're one of the few people that I know and collaborate with that is an LA native.
I know. Isn't that weird?
So what was it like kind of growing up here in LA and becoming a creative, which is very much present in LA? But I mean, was that something that ran in your family, or kind of paint that picture for me?
Yes and no. My mom was a dancer in the 60s, so we have that whole aspect. She was like on Soul Train, and she was like Whiskey Go-Go dancer and stuff like that. So yes, but by the time I came around, most people were not really doing any like I don't know, entertainment. I think it's always in our stuff. Like everyone kind of was like creative, but they weren't like doing it as a profession, I guess is the way it is. But yeah, my family's very creative. They're very like, singing, dancing, acting, like stuff. But also being here, I think really helped me start a lot earlier in my creative journey, to be honest. Like the fact that I was here and I wouldn't stop like trying to perform and stuff like that. My parents had a really a really easy way to be like, well, we're here. Let's see if it'll work out, So like when I started, I was like, I think I was like 3 years old when I started acting. And I mean, it was ease, obviously. And it was like the fact that I really wanted to, and I wouldn't stop like performing everywhere I went. And they were like, we should probably like get her an agent or something, because she will not calm down.
So when did you get your first agent? Were you 3 years old? Yeah,
that was my first like manager agent thing. I actually started out in soundtracks and as a kid actor too. So my manager really specialized in singers and dancers. And so I was in a lot of stuff as like a singer for the first few.
Like the Kids Bop and stuff like that. Was that you?
No, I mean, this is the weirdest thing. I was a kid in most of the movies that were like serious movies. Like Die Hard 2 was like one of my first films. So when there was kids in these like movies singing or dancing, or if you needed like, I did this movie Radio Flyer, which was like a lot of ambiance kids music, because it's like a really sad film. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it, but that was me. So yeah, like it was, I didn't really do a lot of kid stuff. I did, but not a lot. I tended to be the kid that was singing in the weird movie that was somehow adult. I don't know. But yeah, no, I was not a Kid Bop girl.
What was it like for you being on set so young? I mean, you had to have a parent with you, right?
Yes, you always have to have a parent with you. You have to go to school on set, which was really fun and also distracting, because I remember I did the Addams Family movies. I did both, but the first one I was like in it, like visually. The other one I did all the voices of the campers like singing. So the first one I was in it, and we had to go to school on set, and people had prosthetics. Like Christina Ricci had this huge prosthetic that was like bleeding and couldn't like stop it during our like tutoring time. So it was interesting. I mean, I think that was maybe one of the most visually like memorable ones to me was Addams Family, because I think I remember just like Angelica Houston like sitting in her like outfit like on one of those director like looking chairs on that one of those like big brick phones. Like just like iconic stuff that ages me a lot. But just stuff like that. Like I think I have such good visceral memories of that set. I didn't really have like too many like bad experiences. I mean, until maybe when I was older. But like as a kid, I have very
Well,
fond memories.
we'll dive into that next. But yeah, Christina Ricci was my first crush.
Was she?
She was totally
Oh,
my first crush. Like Addams
I could see that.
Family Values. Yeah. I had a big crush on Christina Ricci, and then that crush continued throughout my teens. And I played in a punk band, and we had a song about her. Which, yeah, and someone once told me, they were like, "Well, wouldn't it be cool if she could hear that song?" And I said, "No, it
Oh
would not
no.
be cool. No, because I mean, it's one of those things when I think she's like 5 years older than me, or
Okay.
something like that. So when she
Yeah.
was, 15 and I was 10, okay, that's cute. But now that we're both the same age, that's just bizarre. I mean, I don't know, maybe, and I don't, I think I probably could remember the song if I tried hard enough,
I think
but
you
yeah.
should sing it to her one day. I really do. She got me in trouble, not intentionally, but because she had that prosthetic, and I was like, taking. We were all in a class together at the same time. Like it just, I was so enamored by like the thing like on her neck that was just like flirting blood. The teacher was just so mad at me. I was like, well, how am I supposed to concentrate? She's got
She's got this bleeding thing on her, and you're
yeah.
trying to make me solve a fraction. I can't do this.
Yeah. And I was kind of like a troublemaker in class anyway. I was much better at work than I ever was um, at school. Like I just liked working. And so when I was at school, I was just kind of like a little bit of a menace, I would say.
That's just such an intriguing life to me, because for me it was sort of I guess the polar opposite of all of that, where I grew up in this little suburb in Western Pennsylvania
Same
where,
thing as LA. Same thing. Like
yeah, right. Oh, very, very, very similar. Like you remember the snow season and all that, and
yeah.
but it's wild because I remember everything just seemed like a world away. And even as a kid, I would watch Disney Channel and stuff like that. And I would see kids my age at the Mickey Mouse Club just enjoying this lovely area in Florida. And then I'd look outside and I would see snow and I'd be like, there's different stuff going on in the world. And how did I end up here? How did we pick this?
That's so funny. Like, I don't think I ever realized that things were different for other kids until like later on. Like,
You
I
thought
guess,
everyone just went to school with movie stars?
yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I thought that everyone like auditioned, and I didn't think that like that anything was different about my childhood from because everyone that I went to school with, everyone that I kind of surrounded myself with was in the same boat. I would say, or if not, they were not. It was not alien to them. Like their parents were either in it, or they were in it, or I just like I don't know. Even like just trick or treating was a whole thing. Like it was like I was telling my nephew this the other day. I was like, we used to go with Tim Allen trick or treating every year, which is not I know his politics, whatever, but we didn't know at the time anyway. Whatever. But like that was like who we went trick or treating with. All the parents would have like these big goblets of wine from his house, and we would just like go around the neighborhood to like these huge mansions. And like I remember hanging with Mr. Cooper's house was like the best guy like to go to because he gave king size everything. I just like this was just the way I grew up. So it was just not. I don't know. Like I didn't really think about it until I started like talking to other people later on in life and being like, yeah. And then people were like, that's not my experience. I was like, oh.
Well, so was it set life for you for the duration? Like, did you go to a regular high school or like, what was that like?
Oh, high school was such a weirdo thing for me. Okay, so I started in regular high school to give it a try. I hated it. So then I went to a school that was kind of like fame was based on the school, or so you had to audition to get in, and then I went there for like a year, and I also hated it because they wanted you to work on your craft and not work, and I wanted to work, so I ended up being independent studies and working. Like I worked at a theater for the American Cinematheque, and then I also worked on my acting stuff, which I think was like so great for me because I got such a good basis of learning of cinema from just working at this like old movie theater where like the actual like creators and actors from the 50s and 60s came and like talked about their movies. I think I got a better education than going to prom for sure, in my opinion. But then I didn't go to prom and I didn't do all the like high schooly stuff. So I guess that I missed out on that. And sometimes I'm like, oh, it would have been nice to go to prom. And then I asked people about it and they're like, it wasn't that great. And I was like, I don't know if you're downplaying this because you know I didn't go and there's no way I can go back, or or it really was not that great.
I went to prom a couple times and it was
okay, just rub it in my face.
It was fine. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know. You say like, well, I would have traded it for such and such, but you don't know. Like, you have no idea, right? Like, so yeah. But prom was interesting. I'd imagine, you know, being on set and going to school in that capacity would also be very interesting. So
I think it's like just like what fits you now. Like I look back and I go, just like the life that I lived was right for me. I don't know that it would be right for everybody, right? Like my niece is an actor now. She's about to turn 15. She's very dedicated to acting and dance and stuff like that. But then my nephew is not, like, he doesn't want to do any of that. Like, you know, and that's not his vibe. He has a whole nother vibe. And so if we were forcing him to do that, that would be a whole horrible lifestyle. But for me and for Gwendolyn, those are like good choices. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the cool thing about Southern California. If it's not for you, there's 1,000,005 other things you can do.
True.
Like anything you could imagine, it is here, at least as of right now, and there's anything you can do. So it wasn't really imposed upon you. You just found your way to it naturally, and your parents,
not. Yeah. They like I remember my mom even saying sometimes, being like, listen, if it's too much, like, let's just quit. And I would be like, you know what? You need to leave me alone. I'm going to cry and then I'm going to come back at this. And like, pretty much that's my way of my philosophy now. I'm like, I need to cry about this and then I'm going to come back at it harder and better. And, you know, like, just let me have this moment. Cause it is hard. Like you do deal with like, I mean, you know how it is in the entertainment industry, and imagine, you know, being 7 or 8 and dealing with that. Like it's a thing, you know. And imagine being a teenager, teenhood, and the rejection of acting is a lot.
Yeah, no, that's hard to process. I mean, the closest I have to that is not getting the role you were hoping for in the High School Musical, which I think pales in comparison to, oh, I'm not going to be in this movie.
No, I don't think it does. Because
you don't?
No, I think it's still like that heightened emotion. It's like, I don't know, like, so your high school, that's your pond, right? Like my pond is this pond is your pond. So you're seeing the person that's in your group get that role. I have to do that too. Like, and I'm a teenager, fair. And it's like just as heightened and just as important. So yeah, I don't know. No, I think it's just as in your face and just as complicated.
Yeah, I guess that's true because it is the world, you know. It is just sort of your wheelhouse, whether it's, you know, in Western Pennsylvania or the capital of show business. It's still just your universe at that point in time.
Yeah, that's the world that you're living in. That's your whole like dynamics. And so whenever you're thrown like a curveball in that dynamic, especially when you're a teenager, everything is just so major. So it doesn't
Yeah,
really matter.
everything's life or death. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so when did you have kind of your first bad experiences on set where, oh, this person's having a meltdown or this person's being very toxic or whatever it is?
I had like little tiny things that happened to me when I was a kid. Like I got sick on set once. On Die
Oh,
Hard 2, I got really, 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 really sick and threw up everywhere. Um, like on my mom, a little bit on Bruce Willis in production. So it was just like not great. It was not a great experience, but I was like, I think I was like 4. So everything after I threw up, I was like, this is great. Let's just go on. I was fine. You know what I mean?
do you
But
always think about that when you see Bruce Willis now? Like, hey, I puked on that guy.
yeah, I mean, I think about that and then yeah, I think about that and I also think about like he did something really nice for us. Like we were at Tom Bradley Air Terminal, you know, the terminal in LAX. They
Hmm.
closed the whole terminal and they were filming it. Which I don't even think they would do now, whatever. And they had this like really fancy like food court, like of catering for everybody. And us kids looked at it and we were like, that is gross. You are disgusting. And so he went and got like McDonald's to bring a truck for like with Happy Meals with us. And like, I just think of that, like, just like knowing like no matter how fancy you think that you're being when you have kids on set, like just get them a Happy Meal and we're so freaking happy. You know what I
Well,
mean?
wait a second. When did the sickness come? Did Bruce Willis cause
Right
this? Was it the Happy
after.
Meal?
It was right.
So he thought he was helping, but really I mean, it's not on
Oh
him, but
I don't know, like maybe.
I mean, I think it adds up. You had a Happy Meal and then you got sick. I'm gonna say the Happy Meal played a role.
Unless McDonald's wants to like sponsor you, and then nothing ever happened at McDonald's.
They're not calling me anytime soon. I
You don't
guarantee.
know. You don't know. This could have been the conversation.
They're like,
um,
look, we want you. We want you to give us a shot. You know, there was a point in my life where I was spending some time in McDonald's. It's certainly not much of an
was it
endorsement.
yesterday?
No, I haven't. I haven't eaten there in probably 20 years. But
Oh,
yeah, I don't do McDonald's. I just can't. I tried to give up. I mean, I was a road comic for a while, so it was hard to avoid fast food.
yeah.
And eventually, I checked in and I realized I don't like where I'm at health wise right now.
Okay.
So I did a 180 and I joined a crop share. I lived in Tennessee at the time and I would travel with a cooler full of vegetables wherever I went and I
You went
avoided fast food.
extreme.
It was I don't know if it was I mean I still would eat like club food like when they comped your meal. I would still
Yeah.
do that. I wasn't that hardcore, but I would try to be reasonable. Like get a sandwich. Don't get the burger. Don't you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just completely avoided fast food. And if you do that for a while, when you go back to it, it will not taste good to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can't really. I mean, there's certain things I can do, like if I'm traveling and a subway is the only thing around, I can do that. I could do a Chipotle if I had to, but a McDonald's, a Burger King, I mean, if my other
I'd
option was
rather McDonald's
starving,
than Subway. I'm so
really?
sorry.
I just can't do it. I mean, I just it's
I
too
have gotten the
salty.
worst food poisoning of my life on Subway twice.
Well, did you throw up on Bruce Willis from Subway though? I feel like it might be neck and neck here. You did? You threw
No,
up?
I'm just
It was an annual occurrence.
yeah. Every time I get sick, I just go, Bruce.
Bruce, help. Get the ginger ale. I got a thing.
No, he's like, I have thrown up on other people since then. It's not just Bruce. It's not
All right.
exclusive.
You spread it around.
Yeah, I'm nice like that.
So what I did do for McDonald's though was there was a point in time, I want to say in the mid like 2010-ish, where McDonald's had the best Wi-Fi out of any public Wi-Fi you could ask for. So I would go there, but again, I couldn't eat their food. So I would just go and I would get a cup of coffee and like one of those fruit and yogurt parfaits. I could eat that, and I would just sit there and use their Wi-Fi until I had to go to the gig or something like that. Because this was back when hotels, like some hotels, didn't have Wi-Fi yet, or their Wi-Fi was really spotty. So it was a road comic thing for a period of years where somebody might tell you, "Hey, I found a McDonald's." That didn't necessarily mean, "Hey, we found somewhere to eat." It meant, "Hey, got good Wi-Fi." Yeah. So that's, I don't know. Maybe they will call me for that. Be like, "We want to bring that back." Now you can, everywhere has better Wi-Fi now, but now here at McDonald's, you can wire in. We got Ethernet at every table. Ethernet at every table.
And we soundproofed it for you.
We soundproofed it. We have recording booths now. Creatives, if you create content, we're the place for you. Are you a content creator, but you're traveling? McDonald's, you got to go here.
Yeah.
Make a McReel. We got you.
It doesn't really take much for me to go to McDonald's, so I also
you're not an In-N-Out enthusiast, isn't that?
Oh, I mean, no, I'll eat In-N-Out.
You like In-N-Out too?
Yeah, I don't have to like kill my babies. I can love them all equally.
You know, my favorite, like more West Coast, if I got to do a fast food type thing, I like a Dirty Del.
I love Del Taco.
I like Del Taco. Now I can't do Taco Bell. Taco Bell, that's something that made me sick some years ago, and we have been divorced ever since. But I like me a Dirty Del.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. Oh, yes, I do remember the last time I went to Taco Bell. We went to the one in Hollywood because it has alcohol, and we just thought that was funny. So we went to
I did not know. That's
Taco Bell Cantina. Where
that's funny. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I just had to do it because of that. But I am a regular at the Del. I have the app.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And if you're going to Del Taco, use the promo code. No, I'm just kidding. Wouldn't that'd be a perfect insert.
That would be great.
So let's get into horror, because 'tis the season. And of course, I really want to talk about that with you. So what led you to horror? Were you just always into it, or did you land a role? Like, unpack all that for me.
My mom is a huge horror fan. So I grew up watching horror films. Like, speaking of McDonald's, I used to go to McDonald's every morning and sing with Scatman, who was in The Shining. And when he passed away, my mom was like, "You know what? You should watch The Shining." And I think I was about 3 or 4. And so
wow.
That was like the first horror movie I remember seeing, besides Pet Sematary, where my sisters made me see Pet Sematary, and I think I was like 4 or 5. So yeah, I mean, every girl in my family is into horror, so I think that was like just a natural thing. I wasn't really in a horror movie until, well, I mean, okay, so I think Addams Family is kind of a horror movie, but a lot of people don't. So I guess, yeah. So there's
comedy, horror.
Yeah, horror comedy is a thing. That is
I can take that. Yeah, no, I can take that for Addams Family. It's fun. Side note, I rewatched the first one and Values over Christmas. This past, as you should. I rewatched both of them, and it was so fun to revisit those movies as an adult, because all the jokes that went over your head as a kid.
Oh yeah,
all the jokes. There's so many, especially like Christopher Lloyd as Fester, like all the jokes, and especially as somebody who's participated in show business since then. You're just watching it. You're going, wow, the writing is superb here, and of course you didn't understand any of that as a kid. But
no, I mean, it was
or very little. Like,
yeah, I think some of the stuff I like look back and I go like, oh, the "Eat Me" song, that is like one of the most iconic songs from it that I sang. I think is interesting lyrics.
Were you in the camp scene when they go to camp? Was that you?
I sang. I wasn't
really?
Dorky enough, apparently, to get into the camp.
So you weren't on screen, but you were in
In the second one, no, I
you
was
sang.
just the soundtrack. I sang all the songs.
Okay.
I know.
That's just such a funny scene. I mean, that's just so brilliant.
I know.
That whole scene. And again, a lot of that went over my head I got the gist of it, but I didn't understand any of like the history of what she was saying. I was too young to pick up on that. But then as an adult, you just appreciate it even more.
I'm like, whoa, like what were we singing?
Right.
But yeah, like I guess I didn't really act in horror movies until like as a teen or something like that, unless you count like that. Unless you count Addams Family. There was like a lot of like quasi genre stuff, and but I was always a fan. I used to be very scared of everything though. That was like a thing. Like I wouldn't go to the those like haunted houses until like maybe my 20s.
Really?
Yeah.
So you loved horror movies, but you didn't love it in person, or?
No, I don't like being like like feeling like I was in danger. And then I went to hypnotherapy and I was like, listen, I'm really into horror and I like going to all these things and I want to be able to go into a maze. So we worked on it.
I love that stuff. Yeah, I've always really loved that stuff. I get a kick out of it. It's I don't know. I got to do it once. I was one of the people in the maze.
Oh.
I got to scare people. Yeah, it was a fun gig.
I've never done that. I think it would be really fun. Like, but I think like having your whole Halloween be dedicated to that, like scaring people would drive me crazy. I'd be like, I have so much to do. This is my season. I don't want to.
Well, these days, when somebody gets me, I just really appreciate it. I mean, someone got me at the what was the thing we both went to in Long Beach?
Oh, Midsummer.
Midsummer. Someone got me at Midsummer. I was on my way to something, and it was through the kind of scary the like dark patch thing they had. I forget the name of it.
All the different mazes and all
with
that.
all the different mazes, and this one guy just jumped at me at the right time, and he had one of those sound maker things that does like the yell. And he got me. I jumped, and then I just gave him a thumbs up. Like I was like, "Well done, sir." I was impressed.
Yeah, I mean it's impressive. Like I went to the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal this last weekend, and I was really like concentrating on like protecting my nephew because it was like his first time going through all this stuff. So I was like really just like trying to find them and just trying to like, like make sure he was okay. So much so that they got me way more than they should have because I was just so concerned about him. I just really put myself in some interesting situations. So I was screaming a lot more than I ever usually would. And one time I thought I had protected him because I was like, oh, there's this door. This obviously is where it's going to pop out. So I pushed him to the side and the door was a decoy because he just came right through the wall at him. He was like, you pushed me towards the monster. You were wrong. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry.
Well, how old is he?
He's 13, but he's just like,
he's fine.
But the guys in our family are not horror fans. It's just girls. So we like have to work on them so hard to be like, come with us to this stuff. So we don't want to like abuse it because we're like, it takes so long to convince them to come to stuff for us. So I was like, please don't scare him so much that he never wants to do this again.
Yeah, I mean, but sometimes it's cool when someone scares the shit out of you. You learn from it, and that's awesome. And
yeah.
So I kind of got into it from my cousin Sandy. She was into a bunch of like horror stuff, and she had a Ouija board.
Girl.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
We're the
gateway. and she scared the shit out of me. And she got in trouble for it, which I felt badly about. I got her in trouble.
But did she get herself in trouble?
I didn't mean to. No, it was on me because I was so scared that like my parents got annoyed and they were like, you're scared because all that shit your cousin told you. And I was like, no, I'm not. They were like, yeah, you are. And so they were like, we're going to call her right now and she's going to tell you it's not true. And I'm like, no. And they were like, yes. God. And then she got in trouble. So I felt bad, but it was an
See,
awesome life lesson. And now, all these years later,
you like it.
I like it, and I write horror
Yeah,
and horror comedy scripts. And
exactly. I mean, if somebody had called my mom about like scaring me, my mom would be like, "Oh, that's good. That was a good one." Like she is so demented. Like I once came home and all the doors to the house were open and Tiptoe Through the Tulips was playing.
oh, wow,
And
that's creepy.
she had taken one of my stuffed animals and put it like in the center of our living room with like my hatchet person. And I was like, "You are a psychotic person."
Your mom did that?
That
That's
my mom did that. Like, when I was a grown up.
that is brilliant.
Yeah.
That is brilliant.
Sure, let's say brilliant, diabolical, crazy. But that's the kind of women I grew up with. Like my niece once tried to scare the shit out of my sister by turning off the breaker and just putting a whole bunch of masks everywhere. Like we're just demented, like, demented people. Like I don't know.
That's awesome. So then how did you eventually, I mean, you're a scream queen, right? Like you've really, I mean, you've really conquered that world in so many ways. Like you do
Yeah.
a ton of indie horror stuff. So how did all that unfold? Was it just networking and having the interest, or?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to do it. I always wanted to be in it, in the horror world because I love it. And so I knew that it wasn't like happening naturally for me. So like building a community was really important to me, to support my dreams and my friends' dreams, and also just to see the representation that I wanted in horror. So I started making horror independently myself, and I mean, early days it was like a lot of like sketches that were like horror comedy and like short films and stuff that I'm proud of them. But now we look back and we go, that was a start.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And then just saying yes to a lot of people. I think that's like super important. If you have like a community you want to get involved in, you have to say yes to a lot of like silly, free stuff for a while. And then they start remembering, they're like, "Oh, you did my radio show. Oh, you did this, and now I have a franchise or I have a this, and like, and then they think of you." So that was really important. It was really important for me to be in horror because I love it. And I feel like I'm a good fit, even though maybe mainstream they wouldn't always think that. So I
What do you
think,
mean by that?
well, like, I would always be the best friend in anything, and that's fine.
Hmm.
I'm fine with that. But mainstream wise, horror is very like rigid in what they expect, especially in like the slasher genre. And now I don't think they're really doing that anymore. I think a lot of people are breaking out, especially in the indie world. But it used to be a whole bunch of young teenagers running around and just being killed and looking really good. And, I'm not a teenager, and I'm biracial and I'm tall and I'm like quirky, and all those things to me are a benefit in the kind of horror I write and the kind of horror that my friends are writing and producing. But in like the more mainstream of a few years ago, like where was that? Where was the fit? Like if
Hmm.
so it's nice that horror is evolving to like expand to women of all ages, men of all ages, of all looks and types and races and sizes. But, it wasn't like that for a long time. So it's nice.
Well, what's your kind of take on just the state of the industry, and then also kind of where horror fits into all of it? Because, I mean, now the strikes are over, but you're still hearing about tons of production just leaving California for
Yeah.
a large list of reasons. So I'm curious your take on all that as somebody who has been here literally your whole life.
Yeah. I mean, I think for actors, there's a lot of like tendency for like a lot of actors to be like, well, I'm going to move to that city or I'm going to move to that state. Unless you really have roots there, like I would stay in LA because they're casting out here anyway. You know what I mean? Because I think there's a tendency to like jump ship right now.
Mm-hmm.
And unless that's like your hometown, I wouldn't jump ship because like you've got your connections here, you've got your foundation here. The industry has gone through so many of these like ups and downs and these like upheavals, and like the constant thing that it like really will keep you working is the community you build and the networking that you build. It's just like, unfortunately, who you know is essential. So like uprooting that and going to another city sounds great, or even like those productions that are going out there, they're still working with their network. They're still working with their community. They're not going out there and going, oh, let me like, you know, they'll hire some local stuff, of course, but they're bringing their friends, they're bringing their network, like, unless they're from there, and then they can pull from there. But like, also indie is king right now. Indie is like, it's the thing that's going to keep you constantly working. Indie films, like, there's so many outlets now. Like, it used to be like an indie film was like one art house in your in your neighborhood, and that's it. No, this is streaming. This is everything. So saying yes to your friends like indie production is like so much more powerful now, because their reach is, and like, it's infinite. It could be, you know. So like, I don't know. It just it feels like the best thing that you can do during daunting times is to keep at your network, at your community, and keep making stuff, even if it's low budget. Because honestly, after all these things, those are the things that usually survive. And now there's so many places they can go. So I try not to be daunted by the fact that like some bigger productions are not happening as fast, or they're going somewhere else, because honestly, you have more of access to these indie films than you do a major blockbuster anyway. You have more of a chance. So why not focus on those, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And the one sort of thing I've seen, and a lot of this is through, you know, your network and stuff you've introduced me to, and places you told me to go that I've since gone. It seems like in the horror world, especially here in LA, that's always been kind of doing its own thing anyway. So it's sort of been immune to a lot of the other, you know, just kind of industry bullshit of the big studios not greenlighting anything. Like, it's always been sort of immune to that anyway. So it's still sort of, the heart's still beating. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
Or
I would agree with that. I guess what I would ask any person that like is struggling with this like time is like, what are your career goals, right? My career goal is to not necessarily be like a full on celebrity. That's great, whatever. But but I want to be working, and I want to work with amazing people, and I want to make amazing content, and like I want to make amazing projects with people that I believe in and that believe in me. And that is achievable pretty consistently. And I mean, they do pay. Like, this kind of stuff pays. Like, it may not be, you're not getting the $10 million check, but so few people are. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the people that I like really admire are the ones that are always in like a bazillion things. You may not even know their name, but they've got a constant paycheck. They got a house, they got a car that's like, you know, and they're working, and they're happy, and they've got like a community behind them. And that is like truly my goal. And so I think if that is your goal, that is completely achievable now. Whatever genre, I feel like, as long as you're not like seeking Marvel fame. If you're seeking Marvel fame, I don't even know what to tell you in the best of times. Like,
yeah,
that is just a hard achievable. I mean, it is achievable. I'm not saying it isn't, but like that is a lofty and heavy goal. Like, it comes with a lot of stuff that I don't even know that most people are prepared for. So
oh, I think most people have no idea, I think, what fame really entails. And I think a lot of people have misconceptions. Like, I think a lot of like just regular people have this misconception that anybody who wants to be creative for a living wants to be famous. That's not the case at all. I think a lot of us, I think my buddy, a buddy of mine, a musician named Latch, he kind of put it in a frame that I really appreciated, where it's, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he basically said, I only want the amount of notoriety that's sort of necessary to do what I do. And like, basically, if somebody's going to be interested in what I'm doing and they want to buy a ticket when I'm in their town, I want them to know that I exist. So, I mean, is that the same as wanting, quote, fame? I would say not really. So it's like that's kind of all I'm after. Like, I just want, if you're going to be into what I just want you to be able to find it, and I want enough people to find it so that, you know, I don't just have a hobby. You know, it's like,
I want to make a living. I want to have enough clout and a community that I can keep making work and keep supporting my friends and family. But like, I don't think people know, like, like most Marvel people or most like these like huge stars, they come back to indie for a reason. They do indie films whenever they're not on these big sets, and there's a reason. It's to continue that community, to continue to have like that that connection even after, you know, all of that disappears. And also, there's something very special about it. You know, there's something very like rewarding about doing just not super big blockbuster things. Now, listen, I will do a blockbuster in a second.
Yeah, me too.
I will do it. I will take that check. But, and I will, you know, but listen, my goal is to just always be a working and giving member of my community, like my creative community. So as long as I can do that, I'm a happy girl. And I can pay my bills. That's great.
Do you think LA is going to remain a juggernaut in show business? Like, do you think that's going to change or no?
No, I don't think it's going to change. I think everyone always threatens that, you know. I think that people are going to still be here. Like, the big heavy hitters are going to still be here. They're still going to be all the events here. So people are going to have to come here. Will they always film things here? No, but they never always, like, they didn't either. Like, I worked on the Home Alone movie. That was completely done in a different state, but we as a soundtrack were completely here. So you had two communities that came in together to make one movie. Like, that is the way it's always been. And I think that people get really scared and really invested in this stuff. And I get it. I just don't want to live in fear about it either. And I've been through a lot of this fear before. And I just think I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I think the you know, LA is always going to have a special place in the industry. I just don't see it ever completely not being one of the huge powerhouses of the industry. It's going to be one of them, even if it's not the only one, you know.
It's a really healthy attitude. I like that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Therapy.
So where can people go to learn more about you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram, even though they shadow ban me all the time. Anastasia Wash, AnastasiaWashington.com is my website. I have a whole bunch of horror stuff coming up this month. So I will be around, flooding around all these horror festivals, film fests. I got a few films in them. And I don't know when this is coming out, but LA Comic Con is a big thing coming up too. So I'm around. I'm also a lot at Spirit Halloween. So if you see a Spirit Halloween, I'm probably there.
Those are fun.
So fun. I buy too much stuff.
Anastasia, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
That was Anastasia Washington. By the way, we have reached another mile marker here in 1000. I am now asking the question, do I do bonus interviews? Do I do a revisit in any context? The reason I bring this up is because shortly after we stopped the recording, Anastasia told me, hey, we didn't get to the part in my life where I was kidnapped. I was like, what? She goes, yeah. I was like, do you talk about it? She goes, yeah, I'm down to talk about it. I said, well, why didn't we talk about that? She goes, well, you didn't ask me. And have you been kidnapped? It's usually not a question I think of. And she goes, well, you'll just have to have me on again. I'm like, no, these are one and done. I don't know. So I don't know. Is there a way we can visit that topic without breaking the rules of 1000? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Drop me an email. Music for the 1000 podcast is provided by Andrew Saxon. I'll be sure to check out his podcast, the Baywatching Podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, would you? It really helps. And if you want to support the show on the sustainability end, patreon.com/Rob Placone. You get bonus content, additional streams between Drew and myself, full stand-up clips not available anywhere else, Zoom shows, and you get the 1000 episodes before they're available to anyone else. It's a really cool community, and you can get all that for a pay-what-you-can level. Even $1 a month goes a long way. All right, 58, closer to 60. Do we do some revisits? Let me know what you think. RobPlacone.com. Drop me an email. Give me your thoughts. Does it violate the 1000 rules? I don't know. See you next week. Hey guys, Rob Placone here. Take your own 1000 challenge. No, you don't need to interview 1,000 people, although if you want to do that, go for it. Your 1000 challenge can be whatever you want. Maybe you want to call a friend out of the blue once a week. Maybe you want to read a book every month. Maybe you want to start a different garden every season. I guess that might be dependent on where you live. Look, the point of the challenge is taking on an endeavor that enriches your life in some way, and it can be measured. And then, of course, you do it regularly. That's what 1000 is doing for me and hopefully for you too. The main reason for this podcast and every podcast I've ever done is to build community. So take your own challenge. Then join our Facebook group. It's called 1000 What's Your Challenge? ? That's 1000 What's Your Challenge ? And post about what your 1000 challenge is and the progress you're making. All I ask is that people be encouraging of each other's challenges. This is personal and vulnerable, so be cool. There's enough negativity on social media. We don't need to add to it. For those of you who aren't on Facebook, hopefully in the future we'll be expanding to places like Discord, Reddit, but for now, we're starting on Facebook. And again, that Facebook group is called 1000 What's Your Challenge? See you there.